Okay, people, just finished work, and then it is payday today. So there's 4 books that I wanted to get, and I just spent all my spending money on that treat rewards. That's the Havamal, Prose Edda, Poetic Edda, and a book about the Morrigan. Why I say that is because growing up, I used to have visitations from her all the time, and I used to keep telling her to go away, and then she would go away. She came up to me in the form of an old lady with, sometimes came with a dog, sometimes didn't, and it was in the spirit. And I thought that she was evil and stuff, but I have, from what I studied on just like the documentaries as well as was seen on YouTube, she is about change. So the old is like the dying decrepit of the old ways that are no longer beneficial, But before you want to interact with anything, you got to really know what you're really getting into. Because there was when I was growing up, there used to also be a dark shadow that used to feel like someone was choking me. It was like, and the dark shadow was hovering over me. And this was when I was a toddler. I used to think that was her doing that, but like trying to hide herself by being in the form of a shadow, whilst she was getting a little bit more brave and trying to intimidate me when I actually saw her. But I have reason to believe otherwise now, and the thing is, I had that dream, but I've had heaps of dreams with her, but I just didn't know. I just thought it was a lady. Didn't know that is actually the form of the goddess of death of my ancestors, the Celts, who became the modern day Scottish and Irish. And those who know my ancestry, my four grandparents, I just got a bit of Welsh in there too, but 2 of them got Scottish names, Campbell and MacDonald, and then there's Mohi, that's my grandfather, my dad's dad, and then there's Williams was my Nana's father, but she took the mother's name, MacDonald, so. And then there's the Means, who are apparently Welsh, but you search it up and YouTube, as well as Google and many other people, keep telling me that both the Means and the Williams are both Germanic names. And then there's other stuff. So yeah, today, it's very interesting because from a Christian perspective, I used to think it was demons and stuff, but with that dream, and with the explanation of like those who have done like these meditation things to her and have experience in their own little traditional little temples back in Scotland and Ireland, say that old hag is a representation of change. And there was a hero in Scottish and Irish mythology who was like this young guy, big, strong, no one could beat him. And he was out there warring, because it's not, you don't take things literal, it's all metaphorical. And she appeared to him a couple of times as a young person, as the young version, because she can either show up as young, really young, or like, when I say really young, I don't mean like child, but like a fully grown adult, but like a young adult, but a woman. Or she can show up as a old woman, and when she shows up as an old woman, her foes ended up getting defeated all the time. But this Cuchulainn was the hero, and he was like he's like the Irish Scottish version of the Incredible Hulk. because he was just like a normal person, and then the super powers would come upon him, and he'd basically hulk up and be able to smash the enemies. Very similar to Samson of the Bible as well. And she wanted him on her side, but he was just doing his thing. And she kept coming as a young person. But then one day she showed up as an old hag. And she ended up, she was washing the blood of his armor because he went to go to another war. And this time she had showed up as an old woman. And in that war was the war that Cuchulainn died. So people say, "Oh, that's real bad," but well, I had to get a book about her to study up because of that dream, the visitations I had as a toddler, and just throughout my life, she's shown up in visitations, and no matter how many times I tell her to go, she keeps showing up, and when I see her, nothing bad happens. Nothing bad happens. And if you want to get into astrology, when I was born under Mars, Venus, and Rahu. Rahu's got to do with, it depends how you look at it, but there's destruction, and then there's, but destruction's not always a bad thing. It could be the ending of, it could be someone who ends certain things that have been going on in the family line for many generations. This one comes along, disrupts that pattern, destroys that pattern, and sets up a new pattern. So whether that destruction is a good thing or a bad thing is all in what's that word? Depends. It depends what's being destroyed in order and what's the new thing that's being brought in. So if you want to go by astrology, I'm under the destruction, which is Rahu, and my family has had sexual, physical, and verbal abuse for many decades now. I go back to my great-grandparents on my father's side, did it to my grandparents. My grandparents did it to their children, and to a certain extent it was done to us. Like, we took the physical stuff, but the physical stuff came if they shared our point of view. If they shared a point of view of, this is the best career for you to follow, this is the sport that you're supposed to play, and if we disagreed, then they would say, no, here's why, blah blah blah, and this is what we want you to do. And then if we continue to stay our ground and say, no, but we have different desires, we have different interests, we want to do different things, eventually we'll just get a beating. So there's that. Sexual stuff was body washing and in the shower and all that type of stuff, but no penetration. And then just being verbal, it's been hard out, And some of my great grandparents on my father's side did that to my grandparents on my father's side. They did that to him. They did what I said. They said, what I said. They did it to me. I'm born under Rahu. I'm under the destruction. So I'm here to destroy that. And we're setting new standards, because none of that will happen to my children. I've decided that that's why I haven't had kids yet. I've had a couple of serious girlfriends, and I said, you know what? With all the stuff that I've yet to achieve, because I've done all these things I wanted to do, and there's all these other things I want to do, if I was to have children right now, I don't know if I'd be able to make them my first priority, because I want to do these other things. So I made it certain so that when my children are born, they are first priority. So therefore, when I'm serving them, not serving them like, bowing down, but, basically just, being patient with them as they learn along the way, feeding them, clothing them, and having the maturity to not fly off the handle because they won't do things my way, but to realize that they are an individual, that yeah, they come from me, but they're an individual in and of themselves. They are themselves, I am me, and yeah, they carry my genes. That's the connection, is the bloodlines and all that, and I'm raising them, but they are an individual, and to not have any needs that I want them to fulfill because I didn't go out there and achieve my heart's desires before they were born. So when they're born and they're brought up, they're not going to have to deal with any of these things, you know. So for me, that's how I view Rahu, destruction. That's how I view it's going to work out in my life when I have children. Because I had all these goals when I left high school, and I've achieved half of them. And the other half I left is to tour Asia, tour Europe. Oh, I better keep parking. Yep, tour Asia, tour Europe, but I don't want to be like on a tour bus where everything's planned out, you know, like, I might do, but prefer not to, but, you know, I'd much rather go and learn along the way, you know, and get a job out of my degree, but that's, you know, whatever, who knows what happened. And then the other two is raise a family and become a black belt. So, I've done everything else I wanted to achieve, so, yes. The other two that I was born under are Mars and Venus, and it explains why I always liked rugby and rugby league, and now I'm a martial artist and all this type of stuff. It, you know, and people say, like, because sometimes I just want to use my brains and be nice and talk to people, and you know. And I've had people say, "Oh, bro, you're a big man. I wouldn't want to mess with you," and all this type of stuff, and I don't like that talk. And no matter how many times I say this to people, like, you know, like, who cares about that type of stuff? They keep bringing it up. But I was born under Mars, and that represents, you know, warrior, you know. And the other one is Venus, you know, which is like, it's got to do with the pursuit of wisdom. And I'm sure there's other things, but that's what sticks out to me. Okay, guys, well, it is payday, so I got those 4 books, and so I'm going to go get me a little treat, and then that's my spending money for this week. My overdraft was $1,800, but in 2 weeks it went down to $1,300, and we're getting it down and out. All right, guys, universe bless you, God bless.